Hello, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Natalie Sajan, and I'm representing InStock to bring you this complimentary webinar on building resilience, something that is truly really important right now for everybody. Before I begin, let me just introduce myself. So I'm from the UK. I've been working in helping developing people in organisations across the Middle East, including Oman, for more than 20 years. So I've got a lot of experience, not only in people development generally, but in specific cultural experience within Oman and within the broader Middle East as well. And I chosen this topic along with the leaders of InStock in the belief that it really is important for everybody right now to build resilience. The world is in crisis. We're dealing with situations, we're facing challenges that we've never had to face before. Our generation has never had to deal with a situation like this. It's been a very stressful, demanding, challenging year for everybody across the world, and everybody has, whilst facing the pandemic together, has their own issues and situations to deal with. Indeed, everybody's situation is unique. But what is certainly true is that as we head towards the end of 2020 and entering 2021, there'll be some individuals that will be coming out of this crisis much stronger, in a much better position than some other individuals. Now, of course, unique circumstance plays a part in that, but more than that, even saying that we're dealing with our own situations, why is it 2020 into 2021 and just about survive, whereas other people will come through 2020 into 2021 and they will actually thrive. They will be stronger, better, because of having gone through that situation. The difference is resilience. So I'm going to change to my slides now so that you can see the slides as I talk through. There is a chat box, so if there's anything that you want to ask as we go along, use the chat feature, and then towards the end I'll see if you've got any questions. I'll come back onto the camera. Okay. So there's that lovely word, resilience. Just think for a moment, what does it mean? What is resilience? Is it a skill? Is it a trait? Is it a characteristic? Is it something that everybody has? Is it something that can be learned? It definitely is something that can be learned, which is why this webinar is entitled Building Resistance. When we have setbacks, when we have change, when we're faced with pressure and threats, we can grow. These are opportunities for us more from. And if you view the world like that, then you're much more likely to be resilient, and you're much more likely to thrive rather than just survive. And my objective is to give you some practical tips as to how you can actually build your resilience. It's not something that is only for a few people. It's not something you're born with. You either have or you don't. It's something that everybody can learn. So let's take a moment and think about how we react when we are faced with setbacks or pressure or threats. There's a range of emotions that people feel. We may feel annoyed or scared. We may feel let down. We may be concerned about what the result will be. Just reflect for a moment when this whole pandemic started and countries went into lockdown and organisations were forced to close, people were working from home. When all of this happened, how did you feel? And I'm sure many of those feelings were scared, about being afraid, concerned. So imagine for a moment you've gone for a walk in the woods and then you happen upon a bear, a very bad-tempered bear. How will you feel about this threat? You're going to feel probably a bit scared. So with any dangerous situation or with any uncertainty, there are lots of feelings like being afraid, being stressed, being worried, being confused, being angry and being upset. But this is not how we want to feel, because this is not how we can positively deal with these situations. We want to feel, in the face of that bear, we want to feel confident and brave. We want to feel in control, clear-headed, so that we can think. We want to feel purposeful and we want to feel good. So what does it take to turn those feelings on the left into those feelings on the right? Well, a lot of that is about being prepared. If I've gone for a walk in the woods and I've thought that there's a strong possibility I might come across a bear, then I would probably have learned how to deal with an angry bear. So I would know to stand very, very still. And that's with any setback or negative situation that we face. If we know it's a possibility, we can apply our learning, our logic, our determination to deal with that setback, to deal with that change, so that we get as positive a result as possible from it. A good way to think about being resilient is to think about a bouncy ball. Now, I'm sure as children you all at some stage played with bouncy balls. So I'm going to ask you to imagine that time again now, and imagine that you're holding a bouncy ball in your hand just like this. I want you to imagine throwing that bouncy ball, catching it, throwing it again, catching it. Just see that in your mind, what that looks like for the moment. Now, what's happening as you throw that bouncy ball? Well, I want to show you how what happens with that bouncy ball is very much about what happens with us when it comes to dealing with change, dealing with difficult situations. So let me show you how. What you notice when you're throwing that bouncy ball is that it can be difficult to control the direction. You can't always control the direction the ball bounces in. But the more you focus on it and take account of the environment, so what's the ground like that you're throwing it on, the more you can control where it goes. I mean, if you're not going to look, then you're going to be out of control. But if you're going to take account of the environment and you're going to throw that ball, concentrating on what you're doing, learning from previous experience, then you're much more likely to be able to catch it. And this is similar to, we can't always control what happens to us. But if we take time to learn about ourselves and how we deal with things, and put a few simple skills into practice, we can certainly influence the outcomes. Okay. Something else you might notice with the bouncy ball is that the further you drop the ball, the higher it bounces back. And this is similar to the harder and tougher our experiences are, the more we can learn and the stronger we can become. What you find with the bouncy ball is that the more you practice bouncing the ball, the more confident you become about throwing and catching it. Resilience is like any skill. The more you practice it, the more resilient you become, and the more confident you become when dealing with difficult experiences. The bouncing point is a turning point. So where the ball bounces is where the ball turns. And this is like us. The point at which we hit the hardest experiences is also the point at which we make the most significant changes to ourselves and to our lives. So that point of setback or change or hardship becomes a defining moment for us. Something you notice with the ball is that you're going to worry a lot less about being able to catch it when there's someone else there to help you catch it. The support of others is essential as it makes us more resilient and more confident in recent weeks and months that it's your family and friends, your colleagues around you, either in person in your home or virtually through the computer, that you've all helped each other to get through these difficult times. Asking for help, asking for support is not a weakness, and this is something that is a skill in resilience, to learn to ask for help. Think about the ball itself. It's not too hard and not too soft, and therefore it bounces well. Resilience is an important balance between being flexible rather than rigid, but also being able to stand up for ourselves and not just bend to other people's will all the time. So we have to be not too soft and not too hard as well. The way the ball bounces depends on what it bounces against. So it's very true for us. The environment that we are in affects our resilience, and how aware we are of the environment and how we learn to manage the environment affects how resilient we are. Sometimes the ball bounces in an unexpected direction. What does that tell us? Expect the unexpected. We can't plan everything that happens to us. Often unexpected change leads us in new directions that we hadn't anticipated, and we have to recognise that these can be positive. Last but not least on our bouncy ball, it's easier to catch a bouncing ball if you're relaxed and you move around. The more open we are, the more likely we are to achieve a positive outcome. Be open to doing things differently, and don't be afraid to try new things. So I'm sure what you're beginning to realise is that a lot of being resilient starts with how you think, your mindset, and how positive you are. It's very much a realisation that change doesn't look like that straight line arrow. People think it does, but what it picture on the right. In reality, our journey from one point to another can be really complex. Let's take an example of COVID-19. So what's the change? Work from home. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But it's not simple at all. What about the IT? What about the Wi-Fi? Have I got space? What about the noise in my house? What about the kids who are suddenly at home and I've got to teach them as well? They're not going to school. What about, I'm concerned about my health, mine and people around me. So moving through change, moving through difficulties isn't easy, straightforward, like that arrow on the left. And the sooner we realise that it is complex and it will be challenging, then the more likely we are to be in the right kind of mindset. What's really true is that no matter what happens to us, we can choose how we respond. So it's not what happens to us that determines who we are or what happens to us or hurts us. It's how we choose to respond that's going to do that. So are you a victim where things just happen to you, or do you choose how you respond? to difficulties, to setbacks, to change? What kind of mindset do you have? Do you have a fixed mindset where you would think, well, I can't do this, I can't cope with this is too difficult? Or do you have a growth mindset where you say to yourself, I will learn how to? And I'm sure you can recognize that it's resilient people who have that growth mindset of being able to say, I will learn how to deal with this situation. If we have the right mindset, we can choose the right response. So let's think for a moment. If you had a fixed mindset and you faced a setback or a challenge, what would you do? You would probably blame others. You'd probably whinge and complain. You'd become discouraged, maybe give up. But if you had a growth mindset and faced a setback or a challenge, you're much more likely to see it as an opportunity to learn. You'd focus on change is happening and change can be positive. And again, coming back to COVID, some organisations are now realising that they don't need big offices, big office buildings, and that they never imagined how effectively their colleagues could work from home. But they're now seeing it as a positive change. So much more is being done virtually. Meetings, sales, training. People are now beginning to realise we don't need to spend that time and money travelling. We can achieve a lot virtually. It's about looking at the positives. Just think for yourselves, how can you change some of your fixed mindset into growth mindset as far as COVID-19 is concerned, as far as the setbacks and challenges that you're facing, as far as what's happening to you, because it really is your choice. It's your choice to either think, oh, poor me, or to think, okay, this is a challenge, this is difficult, but what can I learn? You'll see here on this diagram, we can either be low on effectiveness or high on effectiveness. Who's going to choose low? We all want to be effective in our life. So what does that take? Well, that takes being responsible. If you're not a responsible person, then you're reactive. However, if you take responsibility, that means you're proactive. So if you think proactively, you're much more likely to be highly effective. You don't want to be that person that is faced with a challenge and thinks, oh, poor me, just feeling sorry for oneself, because that means you're going to ignore opportunities. You won't even see them. You don't want to be that person who just starts blaming others for your difficulties. It's my manager's fault. It's the organisation's fault. It's that country's fault. Because if you blame others, then you're going to deny that there are opportunities for you. Instead, you're going to look at those opportunities. You're going to grab those opportunities. You're going to go from player to pioneer who will actually look out for opportunities. And then you could become a creator who can actually make opportunities. Think about it. There are some people and some organisations who are thinking about that, and they're making opportunities out of these setbacks, out of this situation, out of what's happened. So if you heard somebody saying, oh, how can I be expected to take on more responsibility? Where are they? They're thinking, poor me. Whereas if you hear somebody saying, this is the toughest challenge we've faced as an organisation, let's see how we can come out the other end better and stronger, there you're listening to a creator. So if people are listening to you right now, what are they hearing? Are they hearing poor me, blamer? Or are they hearing players, pioneers, creators? Think about your mindset, how it's driving out the right kind of words, the right kind of narrative, and the right kind of behavior. Another great tool you can use to help you build resilience is from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Let me explain this if you haven't come across it before. You'll see the outer circle is called the circle of concern, and the inner circle is called the circle of influence. If you think about everything that concerns you, and that goes into that outer circle, the circle of concern. So that might be things like the health and well-being of your family and friends. It might be, when are they going to come up with a vaccine? That might be, what about the political situation between the US and China? It might be the weather. It might be traffic in Muscat. Could be any number of things that generally you're concerned about, you think about, you spend time and energy on. Think about everything that's in your circle of concern. Can you do something about? No, not everything. So there's a smaller circle within our circle of concern that's called the circle of influence. And this contains those concerns that we can do something about. Okay, we can't really influence when are they going to get a vaccine, but we can influence how well are we taking care of ourselves. Are we following social distancing rules? Are we following the guidance of the organisation and the government? So it's thinking about things that we can do. Here's some more examples of what you might find in a circle of concern and a circle of influence. So what do you think will happen if you focus on that circle of concern? Those things that you can't do anything about. If you focus on your circle of concern, you become very reactive. You become that kind of moaning, whinging, blaming individual, wasting time and energy on things you can't do something about. And what happens to your circle of influence? You haven't got time to focus on it. It's going to get smaller. Whereas if you focus on the things that are in your circle of influence, then eventually all that positive energy will start to impact the things in your circle of concern as well. So focus on what's in your circle of influence, not what's in your circle of concern. Have a proactive focus rather than a reactive focus. Having all that positive of influence, and avoid the negative energy that will reduce your circle of influence. This will help you to build resilience. So here are the 5 key pillars to you building resilience. Energy, and that is emotional, mental and physical energy. It's about you taking care of your well-being so that you have the energy, the strength within you, the strength of thought, the strength of body, the strength of mind, the strength of heart, to be able to deal with any setback or any challenge that comes to you. To be resilient, you must be future focused, not focusing on the past, not thinking about the things that have happened, having regrets for things you did do or you didn't do. Focus on the future, what might be, what opportunities there could be. The 3rd pillar for resilience is an inner drive. What drives you on? What is your purpose? This is absolutely key to developing resilience, that you are really clear what is your purpose. Get back in touch with your life's mission and goals. Be clear about what it is you want to achieve. Flexible thinking, that's important to building resilience, and having really good, dependable, strong relationships, connecting with others, helping others and asking for help and support when you need it too. Resilience. Let's have a look at how you can actually develop some skills for change. Be prepared for change. Don't be taken by surprise. Pay attention to signs of change in your environment. Think back to when COVID-19 first started and we started to hear these stories of what was happening. Were you really taken by surprise when you were asked to work from home, when the country went into lockdown? Or had you been paying attention and you could see what was coming? Are you paying attention now to what's happening? Are you looking at the environment, at the news, listening to people in the organisation, hearing what's happening? What are the opportunities? Are you looking out for them? Are you preparing yourself for change? Because being resilient is knowing that change is going to happen. Absolutely, it's going to continue. It is inevitable. Another change skill that you need to develop is to be able to let go of the past. When things change, move. But it was great before. Oh, but I liked it when. I'm sure you've all heard that phrase that people love saying now, the new normal. But it's true. Things will never, ever be the way they were before. Things have changed. They will not go back. So you must let go of what was before so that you can move forward, and do this as quickly as you can. Adapt. Be open-minded to new things. There are always experiences and opportunities available beyond those you are currently familiar with. Be willing to step out of your comfort zone and try new things. Imagine success. Close your eyes and envision what success looks like. Imagine yourself this time next year. What does it look like? What are you doing? How have you achieved that? Imagining success can really improve your attitude. If you think about it, think about a footballer about to start a game of football. Now, you could have a footballer whose mind is full of different things, lots of things going on, lots of things in his circle of concern, and he gets out there and starts playing football and has a rubbish game. But what kind of game is he going to have is if before he starts playing, he pictures in his mind, he can see himself running down the pitch, running towards the goal. He can see his teammate passes him the ball. He connects with the ball. He kicks the ball. There it goes in the corner of the net. The crowd are ecstatic, cheering. Everyone's on their feet. His teammates are cheering and shouting. Hey, it's so positive. Now that's him imagining success. Which of those footballers is going to have a good game? We know it's the second. It's the same for you. Imagine what success looks like. Imagine a positive outcome to all the setbacks and difficulties that you're facing. We all get afraid. There's that big, ugly, scary bear. We're going to be afraid. But ask yourself, what would you do if you weren't afraid? Because if we are frozen by fear, we're going to miss out on opportunities. So if we can think, what would I do if I wasn't afraid? And then come up with an action plan and take that action. The most resilient people actually learn to enjoy change. New experiences, discoveries and achievements they find rewarding. And actually life's better than continuing to do the same old things. And as we said, be prepared for continuous change, because change is an absolutely natural part of life. Okay. So just to recap, what do resilient people look like? They see challenges. They see them and face them openly. They don't try and hide from them. They don't try and ignore them. But in looking at challenges, they think positively. They think positively about this could be a learning opportunity. There must be a success that comes out of this. Resilient people are empathetic as well. They can try and see things from other people's perspective and support each other. Resilient people don't blame themselves. They don't blame anybody else either. There's no point wasting time on blame. Instead, they focus on what they can control. Remember that circle of influence. And they commit to goals. They don't just think, oh, I wish it could be better, or I wish I could get out of this negative situation. They actually commit to how to achieve that. That's how resilient people succeed and thrive. Here's a quote. To avoid sufferings, one must learn to adapt, learn some flexibility, and realize that everything changes, and this is beautiful. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I'd like to take any questions now. So I think we can use the chat box to do that. If any of you have any questions, I'll come back on the camera. Any questions at all? Just while I'm waiting for any questions to come through the chat box, just want to wish you all the best of luck and success. As I said, building resilience is something everybody can do. Resilience is a skill you can learn. It starts with your mindset, being positive, thinking about growth, development, opportunity to learn. And if you look at what makes one person more successful than another, a lot of it comes down to how resilient that person is. Do you bounce back like that bouncy ball? Do you handle yourself like that bouncy ball so that you are fully aware of what your environment is and you can cope with change, you can cope with setbacks and difficulties as they come to you? Okay, there's Al Hassan is saying thank you. You're most welcome. Thank you for attending. Any questions at all, please do put them in the chat box and I'll try my best to answer them for you. I'll just wait a few minutes. If you can, I'm sure that would benefit everybody. Okay, so Al Hassan is asking, what's your advice about keep being resilient? Be tiring, can't it? I think the most important thing is that you should celebrate success as it happens. So remember how babies and children, toddlers learn to walk, and parents don't wait until they're walking before they're cheering them and saying well done. But it's something that, you know, that baby takes one tiny little step and the parents are going mad with encouragement. And it's the same with encouraging yourself. In a difficult, challenging situation, you develop the right mindset, you take those first initial steps in the right direction, congratulate yourself. That's how you'll continue to build resilience, and that's how you'll be able to stay resilient all of the time. Because it can be hard, especially in a year like this year when we have been thrown so much to have to deal with. You have to take time out to stop and think, aren't I coping so well? Aren't things going really great? Haven't I got a great mindset? Aren't I learning so much? And that way you'll keep on going. Thank you for the question. Another question comes through from Ismail. Thank you. How does one's surrounding environment affect his or her resilience? Well, the surrounding environment affects what happens to us, but our resilience is something that comes from within. So regardless of the environment, we are able to develop a resilience, to be strong, to be purposeful, to be positive. Let me tell you a brief story. There's a story of two men who, when they were boys, their father was in and out of jail all the time and was hardly there for them. And a reporter was interviewing the two boys as they'd grown to be men. And one of the boys had grown to be very much like his father, in and out of jail, not really, doing very much with his life. Whereas the other son, the brother, had gone on to education, become very successful, had a family, had children, had a great life. And the reporter was interested to know how two boys from the same environment could end up in such different situations. And the answer from the first man was, well, with a father like mine, with an environment like that, what do you expect? Whereas what the second son said was, well, with a father like mine and an environment like that. So what the first son was saying is, what do you expect? I'm a victim. Look what happened to me. Whereas the second was saying, I learned from my environment that I could be better than that. So he built his resilience. So environment is a factor, but it's not something that determines your resilience. Okay, I hope that's answered your question. Please note in the chat box if there's anything else. Did that answer your question, El Hassan? Did it answer your question, Ismail? Iqbal, resilience keeps you moving positively on course fields of life. Yes, absolutely. It does. It's, especially in a year like this year, if you were to ask me, what's the one skill I should really focus on developing, I'd say it's resilience. Because it's not going to just help you through this year, but it's going to help you through all of your life. We live once and we just have to make the most of it. And we can do that much more positively if we're resilient. Thank you so much for your questions and your comments. Does anybody else have a question or anybody have another question? Thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed spending this time with you. Would be great if we were in person, and hopefully, inshallah, one day soon I'll be able to come to Oman and be at the Institute and deliver some face-to-face in-person training. That would be great. Okay, so Adwa is asking, how can you be used or applied to the work environment? Any examples from your experience? Absolutely. All of these same things apply to not just life in general, but to work as well. So in a work situation, you could be working with a manager who you're not getting along with, and that manager is maybe asking you to do tasks that are quite boring and it's not helping you to grow and develop. If you're not resilient, you're just going to become very negative. You're going to be blaming the manager, blaming others, and you're not going to move forward. And in fact, your performance is going to go down. Whereas if you build resilience and you think, I can do something about this, I can learn from this situation, I can prove my manager is wrong, I can face this with a really positive attitude, then you will be able to turn that situation around. So in any difficult situation you're given in the work environment, starts with your mindset. Have a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset. So with a growth mindset, remember you're asking, what can I learn from this? Or how can I learn to do this? Whereas with a fixed mindset, you're just saying to yourself, I can't do this. So you might be saying to yourself, I can't deal with this unreasonable manager. Whereas with a growth mindset, I'm going to learn from this experience. One of the things I'm going to learn is that I will never manage people this way, but there's other things I'm going to learn as well. And honestly, when times are negative, there's setbacks and challenges, they feel at that moment, they feel like they're lasting a long time. But the reality is that they come and go like this. You'll come out of that situation, there'll be a move, a transfer, something will happen, and you'll be able to progress the way you want to progress. So these setbacks and challenges don't really last as long as we feel they are lasting for. So always have that faith and that hope that things are going to get better. Remember as well what I said about having a purpose. If you can really stay in touch with your true mission in life, what it is you want to achieve and accomplish in life, that will drive you through anything. There's a story on that to do with Nazi prisoner of war camps during the Second World War. You'll recall probably from your history that the Nazis had imprisoned a lot of the German and Polish Jews in these prison of war camps. And some survived and many didn't. And through his research, one of the survivors actually figured out that one of the main reasons why people survived was because they had a sense of meaning or a sense of purpose in their life. So that kept them going through this very challenging experience. So no matter what difficulties you face at work, if you're very clear where it is you're heading, what it is you need to achieve, the type of person you are, the kind of character you have, how you want to impact other people, if you have that clarity of vision, then that will help you to build resilience. Thank you for your question. I don't think there's any more comments in the chat box at the moment. I'll just give it another couple of minutes before we sign off in case you think of anything. Thank you. Okay, just another couple of minutes if you've got any final questions. Okay, I'm going to sign off. Thank you very much, everybody. Hope to see you again.